Welcome, everybody. This is Inclusively Telecoms, and this is our introductory episode where we tell you everything about what's going on in the podcast. This is Monica Paolini from Senza Fili, and with me is Chris Lewis from Lewis Insight, who is our co-host. Chris, why don't you tell us more about Inclusively?
Thanks, Monica. And the Inclusively Telecoms came out of many discussions that Monica and I had, and based on some work that I started doing about 10 years ago around what accessibility and inclusion means for the telecom industry. Obviously, that started off being discussed around disability, being blind. I have certain requirements for accessibility, but it's broadened out. And what we've been doing on Inclusively Telecoms for the last 2 years now is getting different perspectives from within the telecom industry, from the actual telcos, from suppliers, from other interested parties, about how do we build more inclusion, a more accessible future for the industry. And people might think, people are already included, but actually people are excluded for all sorts of reasons, whether it's a particular disability or severity of impairment, or it might be age-related, or it might be an economic issue, or it might be a digital skills issue. So actually, Inclusively Telecoms is trying to see how do we address all of these different issues and make it part of the overall design of the industry. And it's built in from scratch when people design products and services. So we don't leave anybody out, and everyone can then benefit from being connected, being part of society, more job opportunities, better customer experience. And I think what we found is, haven't we, Monica, many different perspectives from everywhere from Colt and Rakuten in Japan, through to TELUS in Canada, BC in the UK, starting to give us examples how they're building it into their organizations, and even looking outside telecoms as well, for people like Salesforce and how they approach designing things more inclusively.
Absolutely. And our belief in doing this is that we think it's good for everybody that is not currently included, but it's also good for everybody because it just it's a way to get better service for everybody. So it's potentially even profit generating. So we shouldn't see it sort of like as a weight on us, but it's just a way to think about services in a better way. And we think that an open discussion, just see what's going on, is going to be helpful. And this is why we started Inclusively as a live event or a recorded event as a video. And we got very good feedback. And we found, as Chris said, great people to talk to. And now we are going to expand it as a podcast. So you will have much more of a different formats. So some are going to be like the sort of old Inclusively, like almost an hour. And you will have some that are shorter. Some will be just Chris, some will be just me, some will be with guests, some will be the two of us. No matter what, you can't get rid of us. So it's either Chris or me, one of us. But it's going to be, more informal in some cases, but still have at the core the idea that to make telecoms more inclusive, it's useful to talk about it and to discuss it.
And I think what we found in going through the different perspectives is that, it often starts within corporate social responsibility. It's gradually got more exposed through ESG for the environmental, social, and governance, especially the social side of it. But it's just becoming part of the way companies design things. And that's what we're aiming for, to spread the word. And the great thing about this Inclusively is that everybody can do something about it by raising awareness initially, and then by delivering it, doing it from scratch, delivering a more inclusive design. And as Monica quite rightly points out, it's not only the right thing to do, but it may well prove to be commercially the best thing to do as well, as it brings more people into the fold. And also, by having a cleaner design that incorporates all of these so-called peripheral use cases, actually makes it better for everybody to use. We end up with much simpler, cleaner design, and rather than being cluttered by the way things have been designed in the past, because technology took us in that direction. And this is a much more holistic view. And of course, it relates to every industry. We just happen to be analysts working in the telecom industry, and we see that. But that whole customer experience that we always talk about in different industries, having that adapted around our own preferences and needs is a really compelling argument. And with the advent of AI, we know that the tools are going to be there, the data is going to be there to adapt a service around individual requirements, whether it's me as a blind person or somebody with a hearing impairment or an elderly person who may be losing dexterity and mobility, for example, or somebody with any sort of cognitive learning issues. Then we can just adapt it as long as we build this into the system and into the processes and product from scratch. Then we build an incredibly powerful future for everybody.
Yes, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody, I think, in one of the previous Inclusively said that at some point we have all been impaired for some time, or we will. So it's not a different class of people that are impaired. It's at some point we all might get into that kind of situation, and when we do find ourselves, like say for after surgery or whatever, it's good to see that there is support out there. And so that's it's, as I said, it's actually useful for everybody. Now, in a little bit of housekeeping here. So we will have new episodes coming up, but at the same time, for context, and because we thought it were very good events, we have published all the old Inclusively. So you can go and listen to them as a podcast, although they were not initially recorded as such. So you have them for reference, and I encourage you to go and listen to them because they're still completely up to date. But then in the future, we will have new content coming up on a somewhat regular basis.
And importantly, with Inclusively in mind, we've moved this into become an audio feed. For most of the episodes, we've written a summary, so there's a text feed if that suits people better. If you really want to watch the video for the older ones, you can watch that as well. But we're trying to provide it in a consumable format because we know people consume in different ways, and you might want the raw version by listening to the full audio. You might want a more text-based version. You might even want one of those Gen AI systems to summarize it for you without going through the whole thing. So it's there to hopefully to educate, to inform, and then to actually change the way that the industry runs, the way your business is run. And of course, there's one other benefit by designing things inclusively, is that not only do the customers get the better experience, but we firmly believe, and the evidence is there from people like Salesforce, it actually builds a much more inclusive and diverse workforce where people with different impairments, different skills can be used within the workforce, which creates a richer environment and, of course, an in-house test bed for the way in which things can be developed rather than relying on third parties all the time. So it's gradually embedding that whole inclusively culture into the whole of the organization and obviously into the whole of the industry.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, as you were saying, Chris, before, it's not just the people that work specifically on those issues. So what we're trying to encourage people to do is to have all of you, regardless of what is your job, to think about inclusively. And and this is why we have different formats. We have the summary, we have audio, video. You have your pick, because we have to start everywhere. Wherever you are. So even as an analyst, there's different ways to kind of we can get started too. So we cannot just ask other people to do it. We need to start at home with our sort of dog food and try to be more inclusive ourselves. And actually, for me, that has been a huge learning experience because you just you just don't think about it until you do, and then you realize, oh, there is a lot of small things that I can do. They're not that. It's just you just have to change the way you think about it, and so just understanding what is that you should be thinking about it sometimes is the solution presents itself.
Exactly. And also from our point of view as analysts looking mainly at the telecom industry, sometimes there's a bit of a crossover. So I just had a great crossover between writing about Orange producing all the stuff around the Olympics and the networking and stuff. And then they also did some special design to allow vision impaired people, for example, to experience certain parts of the Olympics. So it's fantastic when that crossover happens, because you don't normally expect it, but it is increasingly happening.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, there is a lot of very positive signs out there. So it's kind of it's an exciting time to do this. So, Chris, any other comments?
No, I think just to encourage people to get involved, just to send, as you say, any thoughts about people we might want to talk to, companies we might want to get involved in inclusively. At the moment, whenever you see the stuff on screen or when you hear it, it isn't sponsored. It's an initiative that Monica and I have been pushing for the last couple of years. If any of it does get sponsored, you will see that notified very upfront and central. But at the moment, we're trying to build this body of work to encourage people, and you can get access to it both through the podcast, the service of your choice, but also through Monica's Senza Fili site and through Chris and Lewis Insight and www as well. So yeah, all of those things, plenty of places to access it, and please do engage with us. We thrive on getting more and more diverse opinions into this discussion, and we think that's the only way in which we're going to spread the word throughout the industry.
Absolutely. So all the details, all the links in the episode description, and do subscribe, do follow us, and let anybody else that you think might be interested know about it if you like Inclusively. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we look forward to talk to you in the next episodes.
Thanks, Monica. Take care.